Welcome back, Syndicate members. It is I, Joshua Mammoth, God of the Mammoth-Verse, back with another review. Only tonight, we have my longtime buddy, creator of Dimensional Devastation, Mammoth historian, Star Trek aficionado, and the only person who knows the true history of the Mammoth, Damen Priddy. Welcome to the show, Damen.
Thanks for having me.
On tonight's show, we'll be reviewing Dimensional Devastation, and that is the combat card game pulled directly from the web pages and tangible pages of the Mammoth Syndicate. Now, Damen was the brains behind the mathematics in the card game, and I was the brawn used to bring the game to life through the art of the webcomics. And so back then, we didn't actually have any of the printed comics that we have now. It was all web-based. This was probably back in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So it was all online. You handled the website back then.
Yeah.
And I was basically just cranking out pages and sending them to you.
And I'd throw them up there, and maybe after within 5 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever.
And so back then, the website, it was all completely free. Of course, I mean, it's still free now, but I don't do any more webcomics. But and we used to get a lot of traffic through there, too.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty good, pretty successful. And then we decided one year that we would attempt to try like a comic convention. And so a friend of Damon's was throwing the AmeliaCon convention, and so we decided that'd be a good testing ground for us, since it was going to be a pretty small venue and close to where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were going to try it out. And so what I did was called you and was like, hey, this event's coming up. And I think we had 8 months to prepare for it, because he gave you he gave you a heads up about it before he even announced it.
Yeah.
So you told me, and then I called you back. I was like, all right, this sounds pretty good. And then I had asked you, is it possible for us to come up with some type of like card game based on the Mammoth Syndicate?
Yeah.
And basically have the powers come out of the Mammoth Syndicate.
All the powers, all the abilities, the characters,
right?
Even locations,
right?
Yeah. It's the Mammoth-Verse is a very large playground, as it were. Lore-wise, you can pull a lot of things from it, especially for something like Dimensional Devastation.
Yeah, and the Mammoth-Verse, so that consists of obviously Joppa City, and that consists of Kung Fruit, and then also Red Colony 2. Well, Red Colony and Red Colony 2, respectively.
Yeah, and those are hundreds of pages.
Oh yeah, those hundreds of pages that.
But yeah, there's hundreds of pages, a lot of story, and definitely worth checking out.
Oh, for sure. It just don't judge me on the art from 15 years ago. So we'll start with how did you come up with the basis for it?
I don't know. I was just kind of trying to figure out. So the way that the Mammoth-Verse appears in my head is that there's 3 different types of people, or characters, as it were. You have your magical base, you have your physical types, and then you have your technical types. And you see that throughout all of the comics. So I decided, okay, we'll do something based on all 3 of those, and then we have something for a good and evil arguments. These are all for player cards and stuff like that. So I thought this. I started with the player card and decided, okay, let's throw all these things on. Stats that work at the time, but didn't later. So throw some stuff out. All that kind of stuff. And you end up with what you got, what we have.
And so the card game essentially is a player card.
Yes.
So the player card is a character from one of the comics. So
he's avatared into the wall.
Right, you're avatared, and essentially it's like Mookie, for example.
I'm sorry, did you just say avatar?
Avatar.
Ow! Okay. Sorry.
Anyway, for example, like Mookie from Kung Fruit, also Lilith here. We have.
But these 2 here are not actual players as of yet.
Oh, not yet.
Not
no,
yet,
they're playing for expansion.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that these 2 are probably most overpowering, if at least at a very high level.
Well, they're ally cards.
Right now, but when they become players, I'm sure they're going to be extremely powerful.
Well, especially Applehead, he's like the flagship of the Mammoth-Verse.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
the Mammoth-Verse rests on the back of Applehead.
But hey, it's a great character. It's a solid back.
It's a solid back. So the player card, and then of course you have augment cards, which give you like a one-time bonus to the character.
Right, to the character's stats, depending on what they are, and they only last a single round.
They only last one round, but you can play multiple ones.
Yes, as long as you can pay their costs, you can play as many as you want.
Yeah, and they stack as well.
Yes.
So there's a couple of them, for example, that increase your damage, and if you have a couple of those and you got a pretty solid hit in.
Now, one of the strategies you can use for that is that, say, for example, you're playing a character that has a lower magical base, like say a 3, right? But there are some cards in there that you can take that 3 and change it with an augment into a physical power instead.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
And so as far as the augments, those are one round and then they're gone.
Yes.
Now, ability cards that give your character, or sometimes you can actually buff your ally with an ability card.
Yes.
And so those, either you pay them every round, or sometimes they don't require.
Some of them don't require paying.
The better ones do, though.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, if you want to keep them around, you'll definitely pay what their cost is. Not all of them do, and not all of them have an every single round cost. Some of them have 2 or 3. Every 2 or 3 rounds you pay the cost. But the ones that have the cost are definitely better.
Yeah, for sure. And so then after the ability card comes the infringe card. Infringe card with the lightning bolt.
Well, those are definitely the fastest, of everything in the entire game. Use them anytime you want, but you got to use them sparingly because you don't want to have too many infringe cards. Because while they do have a good effect, you don't want to base the entire deck around infringe cards.
No, you definitely don't.
Yeah.
But it is cool to get those last couple of infringe attacks in right before you roll over in your refresh stage.
That's true. That's very true. Especially if
you've got a little bit left over and you're like, you know what?
If your opponent has already gone and it's almost your turn and it's almost your refresh, throw an infringe out, boom, and you use up all the rest of your power pool, refresh time.
Exactly. Exactly. And so after that, there are ally cards.
Yes.
So ally cards are exactly what they sound. They're other characters from the Mammoth-Verse that help the your main character out. So, for example, we have Applehead and Thomas Rex back here.
We also have a Mookie. We also have a Lilith. We have a Lilitu. There's Adam.
Oh, right. Oh, Caesar.
Caesar. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them now.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
And now, normally speaking, in the rules of the game, you can only have one ally at a time. And so if you pull another ally, the other ally would go to your discard pile. Mm-hmm. But there are other cards that can bend the rules.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's you have cards that will give you the ability to use 2 different allies at the same time. And that's a definite advantage. Right.
Okay, so for example, there's an ability card, and it's a character, Deuce Bluffer. Mm-hmm. And Deuce Bluffer is the announcer for Dimensional Devastation. You can check him out in Dimensional Devastation #1. And on his card specifically, he allows you to have more than one ally out. Like, just you specifically, the opponent would not gain that ability. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty good one.
Oh, yeah.
And although I think that one does refresh every single round, so you got to be careful of that. Mm-hmm. You have to incorporate that in when you're playing that card. But to have 2 allies out that like triples your abilities.
It definitely is better than having one. That's for sure. I mean,
because you get their power pool. So
yes, and that's what I was thinking. You get their power pools, and you get whatever abilities that they have, their passive, interactive, or actives, and that just attacks on even more than what you're doing, and that just helps you build a bigger base, power base.
Right. Now, that's unlike location cards. Mm-hmm. So location cards, the way these work is the initiative stage. We roll a d10.
Yep.
Highest number wins.
Yep.
And the tie, you just re-roll.
Right.
Okay. And then this works no matter how many players you have. So everyone, you can have minimum of 2. But you can have them. I think we had a game of up to 8. I think was
8 people.
And that game only lasted about 35 minutes.
That was 8 people going with a new system that they hadn't really played before. But yeah, we've been able to make the game flow in a way that doesn't take forever for that many people.
Right. The only time it takes forever is when we're playing each other.
Yes.
Because we can anticipate. We've been playing games together for so long, we can anticipate each other's moves.
Yeah.
And we know the card game like the back of our head too. So, we know, and I know the strategies you pull, and you know the strategies I pull.
Yep.
So, speaking of strategies, what's the one that you do with Ravenous?
So there's the Mammoth-Verse location that gives you a fairy every round. I think it is, or it's
either
it's a I think it's like every round it gives you a fairy every round
if you roll
for it. And then on top of Ravenous's activated abilities to be able to do what he does with the sacrifice of that as well. Or you could also use any of the pets that he has or any of the summons that he has, which is god-awful.
Because I remember you actually when you were using a Ravenous deck and you had switched out his location card with the Mammoth-Verse.
Yes.
Because you're like, if I win initiative, I want this in the game. So back to initiative, highest number wins, and then essentially the winner of initiative can either pick the location that the fight takes place at, and there's many locations around the Mammoth-Verse in the card game that exist now, from the Sphinx in Joppa City, the Mammoth Gate at Frog Genius's lair. There's also Mars.
Yep, and there's depending on your gameplay and your opponents, you may want to just say, well, I don't really want to use my location because yours is going to help me as well. So you can go ahead and use your location. I'm going to attack you first.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though. He could choose to still use your location, or she, because you choose I want to fight here or I want to go first, and then the other person gets to choose the location. And so it's all about strategy too, because the location card gives both players the ability.
Yes, and that is both negative. Well, it's sometimes because it gives you a negative and a positive depending on the card. Depending on what it's supposed to be doing, and sometimes it can affect your opponents, and sometimes not. And a lot of people who would roll initiative definitely wouldn't pick a location card that would affect them negatively.
Well, true. It's just some are better than others, but then at the same time, those negative ones have come in handy occasionally too.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
So who is your favorite overall player character deck?
Well, I'm gonna go with Pope on that one. Yeah, I like his transformation dynamic.
The transformation dynamic,
yeah.
Yeah. So there's 2 player cards in the Pope deck. So there's the classic Pope that we know from the webcomics, and then there's the new Pope that's going to be coming out in the Origin Pope story. And so when you were creating it, of course, you already knew that in advance of creating it. Right,
and I designed Pope to be able to change from a defensive posture into an offensive posture. So you sacrifice offense on one side or sacrifice defense on the other side, and depending on how you want to play, who your opponent is, you may need to do that. Sometimes you need to turtle down and not take as much damage just so you can sit there and poke them.
Definitely, yeah. And that deck play tested really well too.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's one of my favorites. Probably my absolute.
Yeah, the art in that deck is pretty good too. It's very tailored to that character.
Yes.
I mean, all the player decks have tailored cards to them. But that one, it really is tailored specifically to Pope. Like all the imagery in it, the powers, the naming of the powers. It's very, very specific to that character. So kind of like the Amon deck, but not to an extent. You have Amon's bike, his lightning bracer, cybernetic hand, so
I think he had some abilities too.
Abilities?
Yeah, I think there's some abilities that were, you know, Amon specific. Not just for Amon, but you know, it was the artwork and the naming and everything was also based on him. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, you were good at making sure that each character was very specific to their pools. But even though technically you can meant to match all of those cards.
When I was designing this originally, we had created the 4 different decks. So I was trying to create the decks off of what those player cards that they would be interacting with. You know, when they were being sold, so they were being sold as the box, right, for each type of player cards. So I designed the cards specifically for those particular player cards, you know, for those player cards, all the augments and abilities and everything. But you can definitely mix and match all between them. And you really, it's not really so much that they're tailored to that particular character; they're tailored to their power.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah,
just really the naming and the imagery is really close.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very potent, specific.
Yes.
Yeah, and then actually the box that we got, it actually was specifically designed to fit the cards and the D10 needed to play it.
Yeah, those are so cool.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, so you had to put your D10 in there, and it actually could fit a few D10s in there if you have a couple of them that you want to switch out.
But it was really great to have that one, and you can just sit there.
Yes. That's really in there. And then after that, we did the expansion, Hybrid Deck Building Series 1. And that one had mostly stuff from the comic Cowboy Diplomacy. So that was very heavily from Cowboy Diplomacy, but then also from the upcoming Dimensional Devastation #2 comic. So some of the art that's on those cards you'll see in Dimensional Devastation #2, and that actually came out really well too. As far as the overall ones, you had Tibram from Cowboy Diplomacy, Mookie, Lilith, and Lilitu were all the player cards in there.
Right.
So like an all-female cast.
Right.
For the hybrid deck building, because I think we did all male for the first 4.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was Amon, Cochrane, Ravenous, and Pope. Yep. So yeah, we decided to do 4 of the female characters now.
Right.
And then there's a lot of different, actually, I think there's actually a General Laszlo in there too, though.
There's a
player card.
Yep.
But as far as the wax packs,
yes.
So when this expansion came out, they were designed after the classic 80s style wax packs. I wish I had one here. I'll put an overlay so you can see what they look like. And so essentially, I bought a box of wax cards and took it apart and measured it and
it gave me a great nostalgia feel when I
for sure. Yeah, because it said 10 playable cards inside,
right?
And then it had the Mookie on the front, or the Lilitu on the front. And it was Paulo's art, art, and then I colored it. Yeah, those turned out really well.
Oh yeah.
So as far as overall strategies that you try to utilize during the game, I know what I like to do first and foremost is when we start playing, I like to get an ally card out as soon as possible.
Yeah, getting an ally card out is definitely important.
And also equipment cards.
Equipment cards are definitely important. Now, some equipment is more important than others. If you have a shovel that does 1 damage, you may not have that out the very beginning of the game. But some equipment is definitely worth using really, right out the gate. I can't think of the top of my head.
Amon's motorcycle.
Yes.
Because you automatically I think it's either dodge or take half damage.
Yes. Yep.
So even if they still end up hitting you, still half the damage.
Yep. Which is good to have it out as long as possible. Yeah, absolutely.
And so the equipment cards are gear that you would put onto your character. And so they utilize this. So there's actually, like a Tri-Gate card, for example, that allows you to switch out an ally at any point. So that's a good one, too, because if you have that one and the Deuce Bluffer card out, and you have a lot of allies, like 2 in your hand, and you need to switch them, you can literally switch 2.
Yeah, and one of the good things about equipment, too, is that you only have to pay for the cost.
Yeah, one time. and then it stays out until it's destroyed.
Yep.
Or the game's over.
Or the game's over. Which.
and so yeah, the equipment cards, they're very tailored to the characters, but anyone could use the cards, the equipment.
Yeah,
cards.
there's no restriction to who can use what.
No, like for example, one of the cards is Frog Genius's Lily Pad, and you could literally have, I don't know,
play it with Adam, or not Adam, but
well, Amon can fly it,
yeah.
And then Adam could be riding it too as an ally.
See, there you go. That's exactly how it works.
Or General Laszlo flying that biscuit.
See, there you go. That's exactly how it's built. It's a crossover system.
It's super crossover. Because that was always our favorite things, back, when they did crossovers and stuff, and especially in the comic book.
The comic crossovers were the biggest ones.
Yeah, we used to just love those because you got to see, like I think
who would win in certain fights, that were always debated.
The Superman Hulk was a good one.
Yeah. Although I didn't really very much like the Wolverine and Lobo one. That was kind of.
Oh yeah. It is still cool to see both of them on the page. Yeah.
Yes, but there wasn't much of a fight in Wolverine to win. Like jury's still out on that one.
I do remember that one, and we had a lot of arguments about that one. So, how did you really come up with the overall like playability of the game? Because I remember stylistically, we kind of played off each other. I'm like, okay, well, what do you need this one to look like, and then what do you need this one to look like?
Yeah, I remember drawing up, my ideas for the format for the way that the cards would look, and taking pictures of them, sending them over to you. How's this look? How what can we change on this? Where would this look better? And that took probably a lot longer than I expected, because I was thinking it's like, okay, so we can just come up with a couple of little things here. No, there's a lot of.
It's not just art on a card.
No, it's not. It's not just art on a card. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and you got to make sure that no one card is super overpowering.
And absolutely, the balancing, and you have to do both balancing and scalability for card games. And if you scale it up, like say for example, ours can play. We don't even know how far it goes actually. But as far as we know, is up to 8 so far. It's been successful. But you also have to be able to balance between all those people. Whoever they're using, you have to be able to balance it all out. But the way that the system is now designed, it basically balances itself as it goes. It's a very intuitive and simplistic and easy system to use, but at the same time, it has a very deep customization and strategic system embedded into it. So, it depends on how you want to play.
And I do like the fact that in a group environment that, like for example, if someone attacks you, I could throw an infringe card down and block that.
Oh yeah, I mean you can play it as a teams if you wanted to. You can do it as no holds barred. Everything goes, doesn't matter. Or you could be the temporary ally, or team up against this person, and you fight it out later. However you want to do it.
And that does happen. Like you start making.
We have seen that in test play. Yes.
Yeah, test play people start making side deals and.
Yep. Yes. It plays out very similarly to some role playing games that we used to play.
Definitely.
And these are people that we never met. This was at what's that place called?
In Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Nerdities.
Yes. So yeah, we went there and did quite a bit of test play with people we had never met before. And they're doing the exact same thing what we used to do back in high school, backroom deals, I'll help you out, and then we'll fight against each other when this is all over. I'm like, wow. So okay. But even that level didn't take that
And
long.
actually, if you remember at AmeliaCon, on the original test decks, or just the Amon and Cochrane decks, we had those two kids that were at our table. And we were playing them for a long time.
Oh yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was a good experience to be able to get that much playtime, regardless of who it is, as long as they know how it works, and you play everything together. It helped us to be able to get a lot of information on what worked and what
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all of the test play definitely helped with that.
And it's definitely an evolution too.
Yeah, it is.
So, like for example, you saw the placemats out there.
Yeah.
Those are awesome.
Oh yeah, they've got everything you basically need to play.
And they're dry erase, so you can write your stats on there and change them as the game continues and you play other cards and other cards get taken away. All that changes.
And everything.
Yeah, and it tells you where to put your equipment at, where to put your allies. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, very intuitive and easy.
Yeah, and easy. That's the key.
That's always been the key to the game, is to make it as easy as possible for anyone to play it, while at the same time having this deeper strategic capability.
It only gets super, I wouldn't even say confusing, but a little harder when you start stacking lots of stuff.
Yep, and that's where it really starts to shine. Is when you start stacking things, and you want to do something really good, really big, really cool. Yeah, you start throwing augments all together, and then you throw an ability out to buff this or remove their particular defense, and then you just hit them as hard as you can. I don't know. Here's about 35 damage for you. You can't block it.
And I love it when you build all of that up, and then they redirect damage.
Right? That was the whole point.
Oh, thanks for that.
But that just shows that there is nothing that can't be overcome. There's no final solution. There's nothing that's going to be so overpowering that you can't actually be. There's something in the game to counter everything else.
Oh,
or something
definitely.
else. This one thing has no. It's not the predator. It's not the apex. So you're never going to get that card that's so overpowered that nothing can beat it.
And all the player cards are based off a numbering system.
Yep, so it's a. So I had to do it through Excel basically, but it's a point system. So all of the player cards have, I believe it is 150 points that I assign through the whole player cards, and they have particular different costs for each thing. So, like, say, for example, your hit points would cost 40 hit points would cost you 40 points, right? Your 6 defense would cost you, I think it was like 12s, because it's defense. It refreshes every single round, and it helps you stay alive. And then things like your power pools would be, that one's not really part of the 150 point system. It's more because all player cards have the same exact power pool numbers. They're just spread out. They're spread out differently,
right?
For each custom tailored for that player card. But all of their abilities, passives, actives, refreshes, any of that kind of stuff, that all goes into the point system. So they're all equally balanced to each other.
Yeah, that's true, because there's no player card that's so overpowering. Like some that seem like their strength is really high have other weaknesses that you don't really know about until you play. And you're like, oh wow, this guy is actually weak in this area.
Yep, and then you try to play in a particular area that you don't. If you don't understand how the player card is supposed to work, or the strategy that you can build around it, you end up playing with something that's kind of half powered. Not really playing to the strengths of what they.
Yeah. But we've seen a lot of people just power through, though.
True. In the earlier tests, we definitely did. And I don't know. It's a good thing to watch.
Well, as far as new cards, I don't think we've actually sat down and tried to bang out any new ones, but I know that we are thinking about doing some type of revamp of the brand, and so. There's actually a whole series of videos. I'll put the links down below. They're on my main channels page, and then that actually does a breakdown of every single type of card in the game. And then I'll be doing like tests or play sessions too. I have a video that actually shows the one hand of play,
right?
Which is like a minute and a half video, and then you'll be able to play it right then.
Yeah,
like it's
those videos are great because they're a great tool to get you started. And
for sure.
And in total, if you watch all of the videos, it's like 10 minutes at that.
Yeah.
So they're outstanding.
And it's definitely better than reading through the rules manual, which the rules manual is good.
True, but the videos just kind of clarify things.
It does clarify. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the new cards, though, I'm thinking we'll probably be doing some new ones based off some of the newer books that we have on the back burner right now. Because I know I definitely want to get this Pope origin story out. I need to get Dimensional Devastation #2 out. And what player cards or additional cards would you want to see? Because I know we don't really have, not every character is a player card yet.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the one that I would actually want to see doesn't exist yet. Doesn't exist in the Mammoth-Verse yet. I want to see Noel.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Noel.
Yes.
Noel is on the editing room floor.
I know. That's a great kind of character to play with.
That was a lot of development in that character.
I know.
And yeah, I ended up scrapping it too.
Yeah.
I actually, okay, so it's really funny because I had a thought about doing a Red Colony book. Not necessarily Red Colony 3, but maybe, what happened after 2.
Is it prologue? No, that's
whatever it is.
Epilogue.
Yeah. Just, a comic takes place of what happened after that.
Yeah.
And I was considering putting Noel into that environment.
Okay.
Which would make, sense. Because what happened was Noel was a character originally for cowboy diplomacy, but then when I ended up retooling the story, she just didn't fit in. It wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, and that's actually, it is bad because I did put a lot of work into that character.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. She doesn't even exist in the Mammoth-Verse technically.
Technically.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other ones though I remember was one of the artwork that Paulo did. Which one was it? It was the sea guy. I think it was the sea guy with the staff. I can't remember the character. I don't think there was ever an actual name for it. It was just one of his artworks.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It was one that I think we had to do. You had a contest for it, I think, one time.
Wow, that's a long time
ago. I know. It was on Facebook. We did it. I can't remember. I can't remember the name. It's one of the cards. I can definitely.
I'm trying to think of which one has the trident. I think it's like maybe one of the Atlanteans or something.
It might be. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, because I was thinking we definitely want an Applehead player card.
Yes, Applehead.
And a Thomas Rex player card.
My favorite.
Because they've been in, well, pretty much every comic. Applehead.
Well,
they both appear in Dimensional Devastation #1 and they'll be in #2.
Well, both Applehead and Thomas have been around since what, 2009, 2010?
Yeah, since the
like
beginning.
Yeah, that was the first comic he did. Was those two fighting each other in an airport?
Yeah. Oh, good times. I do remember that fight scene. And then every scene, like Applehead's head would continually get bigger or smaller. That was actually before the lily pad, though. So they were, that didn't get damaged in the fight.
No, because that was in some kind of commercial airport.
Yeah.
Remember, because Rex has got the little.
Oh. Wow, dude, you're good memory. Yeah, that's the old Kung Fruit webcomic.
Yeah, I think that's like the first two or three, first 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah, it's very, very early.
But my it's still part of my favorites of all of the Mammoth-Verse because I love Thomas.
Yeah,
Thomas Rex he's based off of an old tabletop RPG character from our Villains game. Just like your Plasma guy and Mr. Frog Genius.
Yeah.
But they turned out really good as comic characters.
Well, because I needed characters to fit into that universe.
Yes.
And
actually, they do very well.
Even Homer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Though, as you know, that's the Eel Shocker.
Eel Shocker, yes. Which was a very different. The original character that's based on is completely different, except for the whole dynamite part.
Well, though he had tentacles.
That's true.
That electric shock.
Oh, yes, that's right.
But the look of them, though, I gave him that.
Yeah.
You know, the purple with the one eye,
Right.
no mouth, and I think he still had a dynamite tattoo, though.
He does.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's what that character died from.
Yeah.
In the chest.
Yeah. But I started utilizing, you know, because you have to draw on stuff from the you know of. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know, they fit into that. They wouldn't fit into Joppa City very well.
No.
You know, but in Dimensional Devastation it works.
Oh yeah. I love reading.
And so back to the game though, as far as like the overall playability and the different strategies in it, what's the average game time like?
If you're new to the game, it could be 15 minutes. You know, for between two people.
Until you really start developing your own strategies and stuff like that.
You know, if you just bulldoze your way through using whatever cards you have in your hand, you know, you could probably end it in 5 minutes. You know, depending on which game and who you're playing against. But once you do start doing strategies, you start coming up with new stuff, and you know, you start mixing and matching cards, and you start stacking things. You know, stacking your augments and everything. It's You can really take a very long time. You know, it could take
and if
you
know
half
your
an hour
too.
Yeah, if you know your opponent like the two of us, yeah, it could take you anywhere from half an hour to an hour.
Till you run out of cards.
Till you run out of cards. Yeah.
Whoever runs out first loses.
Yeah, that's why we instituted that.
Yeah,
whoever runs out of cards loses. So, but it's not necessarily beneficial to have 400 cards in your deck.
No, it's not. But one of my strategies, I think in the game we were going back and forth. I'm like, I'm gonna have to run them out of cards. I'm gonna have to stall. I'm gonna have to. I've got to put something together with this crap hand here, and he's got about 25 cards left. I got about 32. All right, let's do this. And I think that did work one time.
I think so. Yeah.
I was like, you picked up your last card, and I'm like, all right, you got something to play? You're like, nope. I fold.
I have nothing.
So we actually did I don't know if you were there. Were you there at the Gods and Monsters?
No.
So we did some play testing there at the Gods and Monsters in Orlando, at the comic store. The old Gods and Monsters, they have a new location now, and that went over really well too because people were picking it up really quickly. And that was actually after the videos. So, yeah, I had people watch the videos previous to going. And so, yeah, that turned out pretty well.
Good. Yeah, I didn't make it to that one. I remember going to Gods and Monsters. Did you go more than once?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I think we've done maybe 3.
Because I remember going to one of them, but it wasn't for Dimensional Devastation.
It's probably just our regular.
Yeah.
Oh well, no, I did the Dimensional Devastation comic book at Hourglass.
Yeah, I remember going to that.
Yeah.
I remember doing
that. Hourglass Brewery.
Yep.
Yeah, in Longwood. So that's where Dimensional Devastation was launched. The comic book.
Yeah.
And then I didn't do a release for Cowboy Diplomacy. Well, actually, I didn't really do a release for the Christmas one either. Just kind of throw them up online and see what happens.
Oh man, that Christmas. Oh man, that's a good one.
I was actually considering doing a special Christmas wax pack of just cards from that comics. To maybe doing 10 cards.
I like it. Yeah.
You know, and then you can release. You know, you buy the comic with the little wax pack to add on to it. You know, playable cards.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know what I would use from there, but you know, it'd be very Christmas Carol, I guess, inspired, sort of.
And you can put it up on the website for sale right around Christmas time.
Along with everything else. Yeah, the original wax packs, there's still some of those left, and then the actual decks, we have some of those too. But I think we're going to end up doing a run of the expansion just as one pack, so you'd be able to just buy the entire expansion at the same time.
Rather than having to go through random.
Yeah, then you can use the wax packs just as, you know, to expand certain things. You know, if you want more than one of those cards, you know, you get the wax packs for that.
Yeah.
But the Amrim from Cowboy Diplomacy, that's available in the wax packs, that foil card.
Yeah. It's a nice card.
Yeah.
I always like all the foil cards.
Yeah, those foils are nice. It's like so old school.
It is. It really is.
You know, you like remember we used to open up that pack and you see that foil. You're like that kid from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
You're just like. That's a reaction.
It's kind of like when I opened that DC card, collectible card, and I got that hologram Hal Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I still got that Hal Jordan. All right, so you think we're ready to move on to the review?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do it.
All right, Syndicate members, we're going to take a short break here. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Damen. We're going to be back here just in a few minutes, and we're going to actually do a comic book review. So between the known and the unknown lies the Mammoth. I'll see you in a few minutes.